Back in 2009, Bohemia Interactive released Arma 2, a huge open world military simulation game. It was pretty popular amongst PC players. However, what really became popular was the mods that spawned from Arma 2. One of these mods, of course, was DAYZ. Released in 2012 as a mod for Arma 2, it gained huge popularity. Bohemia Interactive saw what was happening and decided to release DAYZ as a standalone game, with its creator Dean Hall working on it. Only 5 months or so later, they released it as its official game. If you're a long-time fan of DAYZ, you'll know the ups and downs that followed after, and I've done videos talking about it, so go and check out the history of DAYZ. But in short, they had up and down development. Dean Hall left, and the Bohemia Interactive developers really kind of never gave DAYZ the good cash injection it needed, or the support with developers from its other projects, despite it making them absolute bucket loads of money when it released in early access. Alongside DAYZ's growing success, there was another mod that got made, Arma 2's DAYZ Battle Royale, and this was created by Brendan Green, the creator of PUBG. Brendan Green created the Battle Royale DAYZ around 2013, just when the DAYZ game standalone had launched. When DAYZ started to take off as its own game, the creator of the Battle Royale mod moved on to the Arma 3 brand new version of the game, and then quickly actually moved on to work on H1Z1, helping Sony Online Entertainment, otherwise known as Daybreak Game Company, work on that game, basically buying his idea of the Battle Royale. It's important to talk about both of these Arma 2 mods and how they split and went their own ways. Brendan Green's Battle Royale mod would eventually become its own standalone game, created and made by another company altogether, enjoying one of the biggest successes a game had had in a long time. PUBG was a phenomenon and it started off the whole Battle Royale craze. Of course, DAYZ was having massive problems, as I mentioned earlier, with dwindling player bases, no real projection, no real scope of where the game was going. Bohemia Interactive just seemed reluctant to do anything meaningful with it, and that was until 2017 when they announced they were going to be revamping the engine and rebuilding DAYZ up from the ground. To their credit, it's working. DAYZ is enjoying its highest peak player count it's had in 3 years. It's launched on Xbox and PlayStation 4, and although there are many problems, DAYZ is actually doing pretty well for itself at the moment. So why the long history lesson on both of these mods? Bohemia Interactive have just confirmed what a lot of people have discovered in the past, that they're working on some brand new DLC or possibly a standalone DAYZ Battle Royale experience. At the moment it's called Survivor Games, and it is an alpha mode that you can play for free if you own PC. You simply have to request the alpha code and wait for the email with the actual key. You do need to own a copy of DAYZ on Steam, and of course it is an online only game. So why are Bohemia doing this? With DAYZ getting multiple updates in the last 6 months, adding in content that was removed so they could switch to their new engine, it's slowly rebuilding the fan base it once had, and is creating more of a positive vibe, especially around PC. Consoles is a little bit different, with the game 2 updates behind PC, yet still more expensive to buy. There are lots of disgruntled Xbox and PlayStation owners who feel that the console version of the game just isn't up to scratch. I've commented on this before in my review of DAYZ on Xbox and the PlayStation 4. So what, how and why are Bohemia working on a Battle Royale game when so many other Battle Royales have come and gone? Let's go through the basics and understand exactly what the Battle Royale version of their game is. The Survivor Gamez playground has 3 phases. Survivors will have to move to different zones while progressing through the phases. The first 2 phases have physical borders. If you wander outside of these borders into the unsafe zones, you will be punished via damage and eventually death. You can see phase 1 here has got a very distinct border, and there's no actual passage that forces you into the phase 2, but you will have to make maneuvers to get there. Each phase has different loot, and as the match progresses, the available weapons and gear becomes better and more powerful. Also, every phase has hotspots which have specific loot that is hard or impossible to find elsewhere. For example, the construction site has a Mosin rifle, the lumber mill has assault rifles, and the big farm has an SVD, and so on. Try to find other hotspots and discover what loot they hold. It clearly is portions and sections of the DAYZ map, or at very least lots of placeholders and buildings that you've come to expect from playing the DAYZ game. The endgame phase doesn't have physical borders. Instead, it spawns the endgame interactive object, This object is always in a lumberyard area. Its position is marked with green smoke. As time progresses, the smoke will turn red. This is when the real battle begins. When the smoke is red, all survivors start taking damage, the amount of which correlates with their distance from the object. The further away they are, the more damage they take. Not all is lost, however, as the damage can be turned off by interacting with the object after the smoke has turned red. Transition phases can be used to gain an edge and find the V3S and heli crashes. They appear at one of the several possible locations and are marked with grey smoke. Here you can find long-range rifles, ghillie suits, improved armour and other useful loot. Survivor GameZ contains a streamlined series of medical items. They are either used by one action or can be used continuously. EpiPen and saline can be also used to wake someone up from an unconscious state. All medical items instantly fill portions of your health bar. You can see it's got vitamins in there that can be used continuously and heals bit by bit. Morphine will now actually replenish your health bar, unlike in DAYZ where it doesn't. The game is going to be solo or in duo co-op, and that is pretty much all we know about Survivor GameZ at the moment. So we're going to talk about, is this the right move for Bohemia? What does it offer for DAYZ players? Is this going to be its own game? Let's discuss the actual Battle Royale right now. They're obviously trying to do something a bit interesting or different. I think we've all become accustomed to a circle shrinking in on players. So having stages is maybe a bit of a move to differentiate it from other battle royales. Of course, the problem with that though is that people get very used to playing them games. Players expect there to always be some sort of ring of fire or damage. And while it does look like they have some of these ideas in place, there will be a shrinking or there will be a forcing of you across a map. It looks like it's going to be very much more linear, whereas circling makes you more tactical and you can do all sorts of decisions about where and how you get to certain parts of the map. It's clear looking from this that there's only one way to go. So that means or should mean you'll have more contact with other players. So possibly a great idea. The end game result though is leaving me a little bit worried. The idea that you have to interact with a red fixed point on a map and that everyone will always know exactly where that point is. I think this is going to spawn a lot of camping and the meta will revolve about who can get the best gun and then quickly run to the red flag point. Who really wants to have a DayZ experience where you're going to have to just run and touch a smoke signal just to replenish your health? I'm not 100% sold on this idea. Possibly if the smoke was actually transitional, it moved around the map at different points, I could see it possibly working a little bit better. But always having that same spot that players will recognise and always go to, I just think there's going to be a lot of room for not great or realistic gameplay, which DayZ of course is famous for. I think the same could be said for their loot options. If I'm reading right, loot will always spawn in these exact locations. While other PvP games tend to rely on some of this, like Gears of War always having a powerful gun in certain areas of the map, Battle Royales thrive on that randomness. Yes, you can go to certain areas in games like Apex Legends and know that you'll probably find some good loot, but it's very different from always finding that exact great gun in that one location. It means there's always going to be a bum rush for them weapons, and again, there'll be big conflicts between players always going for the same spots. I just don't think this works as part of a Battle Royale idea. That said, lots of players have always complained about the randomness, particularly esports players who feel that games like Battle Royales really struggle as an esports because of the randomness that can occur. The vitamins is a good idea and I just hope to see some of these changes maybe brought into the main game. So it's an alpha. Obviously alphas mean there's going to be lots of changes, and judging by their Twitter posts and comments they made after this, they still haven't decided whether or not this is going to be a free DLC, a paid DLC or possibly a standalone game. I may get some DayZ fanboys jumping all over me at the moment, or possibly even Bohemia fanboys, but Bohemia are quite money grabbing. In the past they've monetized some of the mods that they've made in conjunction with the creators. Recently with Armour getting a brand new space themed mod that they actually charged money for. Bohemia Interactive are a little bit weird with how they monetize their games and their business decisions. Their games are generally quite expensive for what they are, with many of the games still in early access, and comparatively to other market leading games and their closest competition, more often than not Bohemia Interactive overprice their content. You can agree, you can disagree with me on that. It's all about your personal opinion on how much value you see in a game, but for sure compared to games like Rust and PUBG, DayZ is more expensive than both of them two, I'm not ragging on DAYZ, it's a fantastic game, but as you've watched my reviews, you'll know I've got big problems and issues with the console ports particularly, and even just the regular PC version. There's still so much content to be fixed, adjusted and added back in. So the idea that they're spending hard development time working on a brand new experience that they'll monetize in some way, shape or form is very concerning. Sure, they update their games on a really regular schedule, but lots of their games need them updates because they're just so janky and old. They recently released a brand new DLC for Arma 3, Contact, which has a very much space themed. It's again based on a mod, and I think they've been working in coalition with the mod creator to make this new expansion that they've obviously charged money for. Of course, if a game's doing well and it's got the fan base that want to support that game for many years, there's nothing wrong in releasing DLC for it. But we're talking about DAYZ, a game that's only just left early access and is very much not a finished game. This is what's got me really worried. Could you immediately go on the record and say that this is not DLC and simply another game mode for everyone who already owns DAYZ? Right now it's free DLC. Due to the specifics of game build and distribution of it through Steam, we need to limit amount of players at first to gradually test servers, matchmaking, etc. Later on, no decision made, depends on a lot on reception. Obviously this is big news. If you go and take a look at DAYZ's Twitter page, you'll find that it's got the most comments any of their tweets have had in a long time. And lots of people are pretty angry and upset that Bohemia are devoting lots of attention to a brand new game or brand new DLC that may not even be free. Considering their history of monetizing their content in the past, considering the price point of their games and the fact that lots of them are still unfinished, I'm really worried they're going to be charging a hell of a lot of money for this experience. And if they do, they may find themselves coming a little bit unstuck. I for sure want to give this a go and try it. I actually like Battle Royale games, I just can't play them all the time, as I do get a bit bored of playing the same thing day in, day out. But as we've seen from many other survival games that have gone into a Battle Royale state or just launching on their own, it's a really hard market to crack. Even with the millions behind it, EA's Apex Legends is still struggling despite having a brand new season. More realistic ones or more games made by independent studios have also really struggled. Fractured Lands is one of them games that still hasn't really found a massive player base. Focusing on vehicle combat hasn't really made that game step away from the others. And another Battle Royale game, Fear the Wolves, also has struggled, with the developers ceasing to add any content or updates to it pretty much as soon as it launched out of early access, with player bases really down low. H1Z1 on PC is pretty dead at the moment too. So, are the Bohemia devs simply jumping on a bandwagon to try and make some extra cash? Are they doing this to refine the experience of DAYZ? I'll give you probably my most negative view on it. The positive outlook I could take is they're hoping to improve DAYZ by having this game mode in there. Maybe this will help with their testing of ballistics, maybe it will help with their testing of loot spawns and understanding what a lot of kill on site players like. One of the biggest criticisms DAYZ has is lots of players treat it like a battle royale. So if it has its own game mode or its own DLC, maybe that will leave DAYZ alone as having its own secure place where you can actually make it a survival game rather than simply kill on site. Personally, if this comes out as a free game mode for DAYZ or a free game altogether, I've got no problem in diverting a small amount of resources to this, and also often or not, the problems we've seen with engineering and the actual gameplay problems require different types of devs working on it. But Bohemia have made some really bad decisions in the past. They've taken far too long to get DAYZ up and running, and as I said, some of their business decisions regarding their other games are dubious. Vigor is another one of them dubious games, launching only on Xbox, made with the Unreal Engine 4, yet they charged a Founders Pack price for a game that's going to be free to play eventually. Now this isn't uncommon for indie developers to do this, to gain some sort of funding or finances. It will have monetization in the game but doesn't affect actual gameplay or give anyone an advantage, it's all cosmetic. But the fact that you could only play Vigor by owning the Founders Pack until it actually comes out with early access is a bit of a dodgy situation, and many independent games companies lately have moved away from this. A game company like Bohemia that have made absolute millions on the back of DAYZ are coming out on Xbox and PlayStation. It's another situation where I think they're just milking the cow. Bohemia Interactive is a publisher and not just a game maker. But of course we know they've got their own development teams working on DAYZ and the ARMA series. Very much what they do is usually all in-house. With so many players commenting and arguing that the game needs heavy updates to fix DAYZ first before starting up a Battle Royale mode, the criticism is pretty valid at this point. Right now DAYZ has a very high count and you can see it creeping up and up due to the updates and the coverage it's getting from content creators. The interest in the PS4 version has also helped this massively, and it had its highest peak in 3 years when it came out of early access in December. So it seems just a bit strange and weird that they're risking ruining the goodwill that's going towards DAYZ at the moment by announcing a brand new game mode. And not even a game mode that's going to be free for the actual DAYZ base game, but could end up being a paid expansion. Let me know what you think about this in the comment section down below. 1.4 update has done wonders for the community. PC players are raving about it. Content creators are coming back to DAYZ in their droves, and Xbox and PlayStation owners are going to be getting 2 updates in one, hopefully later on this month. It's a good time to be a DAYZ player despite the problems and issues it desperately needs to fix. I just can't see this ending very well for Bohemia. I feel like any attention to another game at this point is only going to slow down the progress they've been making with DAYZ. I am JADE-PLAYS-GAMES. I give you news information about survival games. I show you the games when they're releasing, I give you the info you need before they release, and I keep you going with guides and tutorials and news updates as they come along. Let me know what you think about survivor games. Will you be signing up for it on PC, and would you be interested in this if it came to console? If you're watching Bohemia, please don't make this paid DLC. You've milked enough money from players over the years. Any game that takes 6 years to complete in early access, I really feel like you shouldn't be asking much more money from them. Until next time, rat bags, laters.